Good morning once again. Welcome back from that short break, and we continue the conversation today on the Twitter jabs. And today we are discussing the annual, I beg your pardon? And yes, today we are discussing the press freedom in Uganda, and I'm joined by Mr. Robert Sempala, and he's the Executive Director of the Human Rights Network for Journalists. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you.
Yes, and the weather is a little bit gloomy, I can see from outside, but I hope that you're having a wonderful start to your day.
Yes, I am in that age bracket where weather is not still a very big problem. I contend with it well.
Yes. So, sir, let's dive right into the conversation. Please help me explain to the viewer what the mandate for the Human Rights Network for Journalists is. What do you do, and what is the purpose of your organization?
Yeah, Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda is an entity that was started in 2005 by a group of journalists who really thought that time there was no critical or central voice to amplify the plight of journalists' rights.
Yes.
And it remained like a ragtag army kind of entity till around 2011 when we took a formal shape and each of us left our respective workplaces and came to form what we have now as the Secretariat of HRNJ, or the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, which is based in Bokoto near Kabira Country Club.
Yes.
And we've been documenting putting together incidents that happen against journalists in the course of the year. We so far have produced 13 reports now through our internal works of research, of verifications, of fact findings, of cases that happen. Some are received by us through our hotline, some through the media. We do press reviews and all those things. I also offer legal aid and support to victim journalists because we realize that many journalists cannot afford the cost of lawyers. Much as media houses have internal lawyers, they only come out when there is a disagreement between the employers and the employee. They do not normally venture into issues of rights of the journalists.
All right.
We also do a lot of capacity building to make sure that the journalists adhere to the professional code of conduct. In that way, we do trainings several in different places, in different thematic areas like safety and security, like professional ethics, like media legal frameworks, justice systems in the world, to make sure that journalists really understand the scope of their rights. When they really assert themselves, they know where it is coming from. We do a lot of advocacy, lobbying, and networking with like-minded organizations to make sure that our journalists' rights are not a preserve of HRNJ or only journalists, but all people that are into the arena of advocating for human rights. Take it as a sort of vehicle for all other aspects and spheres of life. Because if you must mobilize people either for national causes, security, name it, communities, you need the media.
True.
So we want them to really understand the thing called media and also be part and parcel of the voices that seek to, amplify is a critical need to be protected and journalists to really work in a free environment.
Yes.
We are non-government. We do not make profits. We're a membership organization. We have over 700 members spread across the country. We have layers of leadership, including the executive board, which is led by Mr. Julius Esegu now. The secretariat, which I head, which comprises of the technical people who do the day-to-day work of the organization. And then we have the General Assembly, which brings together all our members on an annual basis. Yeah, so briefly, that is it about HRNJ.
All right. You did mention in your preamble about what it is that you do. You say that one of those is to ensure that you train and ensure that the journalists are, following procedures and codes of conduct within the journalism profession. Well, the Press and Journalist Act of 2000, the act was intended to professionalize journalism, creating structures and processes through which one becomes a journalist and practicing journalism as a profession. So how do you monitor that? Because we have seen many instances and cases of journalists being, perhaps violated and getting themselves in a very sticky situation because of things that they said. So is it the case that they are not following the codes of conduct of their professionalism, or is it that the authorities or security authorities in place are misusing it? So help us differentiate. Who is at fault here?
To begin with, We have issues with the Press and Journalists Act.
Yes.
It was a statute in 1995.
You have an issue with it?
We have an issue, and we in court, actually, we lost one of our cases because there are so many rigorous clauses within the law
Yes.
that restrict press freedom. You know, you're given with
Yes.
one hand, another and takes away. For instance, that rigorous annual accreditation for journalists to practice. Once I work for CTV,
Yes.
I do not see where the media council should come in to still clear me to work when the media house was cleared by them and they're already working.
Yes.
So they should be at liberty to employ people according to their standards, not the media council. That would be used to to gag out some journalists. So if you misbehave this year, next year you make sure there is no accreditation for you. They'll find reason to kick you out technically.
Yes.
So we have issues like that and many others. Even these rigorous credentials of education that you can't write if you're not a journalist. There are many professional people that want to write about what they do in the media, like dentists, like health workers, progressive farmers, many of them. You can't lock them out, and this can even earn from their work. And the international definition of a journalist by UNESCO is somebody who earns their livelihood from journalism, from media work.
Yes.
That one to them qualifies to be literally a journalist or a media practitioner. For instance, if you're a newspaper company and you have people that you want to bundle newspapers onto the van and take them to Fort Portal or wherever,
Yes.
those ones are paid a salary for working with you. They don't necessarily are journalists, but
Yes.
they work with you, so you can't lock them out. If, for instance, a driver of CTV was beaten when taking reporters to the field, we come out and help them because we're doing journalistic work by
Yes.
aiding you to get to the field and getting the news.
Yes.
So those technicalities. The world has opened up so much that literally everyone now has their fundamental inherent right to expressing themselves.
That's
so
true.
you can't remain a preserve of journalists. I can be a good show host. DJ Mish here has been one of the best in broadcasting, but he's a doctor. We have Robert Kaushenga. He's a lawyer that has presided over the media for a long time. People that have really made a great impact. So we have issues with it. But that notwithstanding, what you're saying, whether these people that are beaten have breached the
Yes.
ethics, ethical standards, it's not absolutely true. We witnessed an incident recently at the UN headquarters, the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Journalists were there peacefully and calmly waiting for Bobby Wine to come out and brief them.
Yes.
Then the army descended on them and started beating each of them left,
Yes.
right, and center. People now are walking on crutches, their backs are cracked, and they did not commit any crime. That's why no one of them was arrested and charged. They were only beaten to chase them away.
Yes.
Many have been beaten not because they are doing the wrong thing, but because they are in a place where the security or the establishment here thinks should not be given attention. Yet, under multi-party protocol dispensation, each of the actors has a right to access the media. It's not committing a crime by Sarah going to interview, for instance, Dr. Kanokiza Besigye or
Yes.
Bobby Wine, just as they would go and interview President Museveni or Muhoozi or whoever
Yes.
is there that has anything to tell us. So, problem is overzealousness of the security forces. Some want to appease their leaderships, their management, some want political appointments, and some journalists, certainly, we will say, have faulted lines in one way or the other, and we have talked to them.
Yes.
For instance, you cross so into
Boundaries.
a chaotic
Yes.
scene, you have a camera that can zoom from a distance, and you get a very good picture, but you want to be in the middle. Why? We always ask that, why? Then you're provoking the security forces. They tell you, please locate and stand here. You do not lose anything by saying, okay, thank you, and stand in that rightful position. You capture whatever it is that you want. With that happens a lot, but note that majority of the journalists that have been beaten have faulted the lines of duty for any one reason. There's
Right.
but even then, there's no amount of justification whatsoever for a security person who is not schooled in mass communication or journalism to now start weighing in what is right and what is wrong. He becomes a judge in his own cause. He administers a sentence and then a punishment that now this lady deserves the batons on her head times 4 or kick, those bats and everything. No. Yet the law is very clear. If I have faulted, then I become a suspect, yeah? You give me a right to a fair hearing. Let a neutral arbiter, which is court, come and preside over our matter. You adduce evidence, pinning me, and then a verdict will be given, whether I am guilty or I'm acquitted, and that will be the order of the day.
But Mr. Sempala, what about in cases where it's high level intensity in that situation?
Yeah.
In the event there's a riot, or there is a war, or there's some security disturbance or breach, for instance, with the recent terrorism attacks.
Yeah.
How would you expect security forces to apply calmness and rationale in that moment? Don't you think, like you said, it's very important to talk to the journalists so that they know that they don't breach boundaries, security boundaries, because when they do, in that case, they may be disturbing or interfering with evidence, or they may be accessing, top secret areas, like say for instance, State House or the Parliament, places that you're supposed to get permission. How can journalists, because I am one, how can we work with security forces to ensure that we have an amicable understanding of each other?
In case a situation you're describing here happens, the security forces must be really professionally trained to handle such situations. That you do not just shoot at, beat to disable people, use that excessive force on journalists who has a pen and a paper, and in most cases they are running away from you. If they are running away, why do you pursue them and beat them like to pulp? Arrest them and then mention the crime they have committed, and take them to the courts of law. Journalists are not above the law. Everybody should know that. And we're not defending journalists for God's sake. We're only saying that the rule of law should prevail, and not, selective application of the law is persecution. Why do you persecute journalists? Yeah, because if you are leaving other people and pursuing journalists, then certainly you're selectively applying the law. But we really have taken it upon ourselves to traverse this country and reach every deepest corner and engage with journalists about their safety and security. And that is a whole component in our trainings under safety and security. To read the situations, to make prompt, judgments of situations. Even if your president's son, if a situation is so bad, you need to take it upon yourself to make a decision. By the time your dad, who is the president, comes in, it will be too late for him to remedy the situation. So always tell them, your camera is very important, but your life is most important. So there goes a narration of no story is worth your life. Your life. We always tell these journalists. And many of them have kept away from harm's way. But there are those that are innocently victimized. Innocently. And that's why we have problems. For instance, Andrew Ranga was beaten one time when he was covering an incident in Old Kampala. And the DPC pursued him, ran after him, those things. Other people came, other security forces, the police came and held on to him and hit him several on his head. So that was like a personal vendetta. It's such errant officers that we really need to pursue. But also the leadership of the police, of the army, SFC, and all other security institutions in this country need to take it upon themselves to really coach, warn, and take action against such officers. Because if they do not, for us, it is interpreted as though it is condoned institutionally. And if they are going to take any actions, we want to be part and parcel of such processes. For instance, General David Muhoozi, that then was the CDF, one time took action against these errands, 7 officers who beat up journalists at the UN headquarters. But then we questioned the rationale. How did you do it? Who even identified them for you? Because me as a victim, I need to come and pin Salah to say this is the person who beat me up. And even be part of that process, as opposed to only releasing a video of these guys walking someone saying those ones have been, tried, convicted, and now sentenced to a couple of months. That doesn't work that way. When you're going to administer justice, it should be seen to be done. You don't only talk about it.
What about, let's dive into, we have seen certain people in our society that have been reprimanded, arrested, allegedly tortured by security forces for writing, articles or things that have offended some of our dignitaries in the country. What comment do you have on that?
That is a very obnoxious charge that can be brought against an individual. Because if you say maybe annoying the person of the president,
Yes.
how can even court be convinced that it is me who annoyed the president? Maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe something happened within their house. And then you look for somebody to throw it to, that it is you who annoyed me. How can even, how do we be talking about me annoying the person of another person? You know, when you're in a public office, for instance, you must be immune to such small issues of being annoyed. You must really be measuring way higher than that.
But these are provisions that are stated in our constitution that they are violations.
This is why I'm saying those are obnoxious, clauses that are really archaic. In a modern society, you're supposed to know how to manage your stress. Stress management are lessons that should be offered to all leaders. So you do not spill it over to other innocent people. Because the journalist wrote about you, demanding for accountability somewhere, holding you to account why you're misusing power or your office. This goes all to all leaders, not only the president, but all leaders at various levels. They should be so immune against such simple issues like being annoyed. You must undergo stress management, and that is entirely a recommendation for me to every leader, every person, even in a home, that you do not stand up to say, I've been annoyed by this journalist, and then the police is wasting time on this person after 2 minutes, and then we say, now I'm okay. And then they drop the charges or what? Sarah, it's very funny.
It's not even just the person of the president, but it's also freedoms of every citizen in this country, where it is wrong for somebody to, say offensive things, to offend you as a person.
Yeah, offensive things, the law is very clear.
Yes.
The penal code, there should be clear demarcations of what constitutes crimes. But there are those that are way archaic in our constitution that should not be entertained. For instance, there are laws, say the Computer Misuse Act.
Yes.
You have a gadget there, I have my phone, I have everything. The journalists use them for their journalistic work.
Yes.
So I use them to post a picture and somebody says, I've misused my computer. How else am I going to work? Because in the digital era, you do not use anything less of a gadget. So you're literally telling me I should not use my gadgets, or you want to really self-censure myself that I do not be at liberty to express or to even give out information. So we are even going to, in times when we are challenging the Computer Misuse Act, because many journalists have been charged, they have been interrogated at the CID over offenses that even the guys in CID don't understand, because they don't know what constitutes what is right and what is wrong within the media. They are not schooled in that background. They're only trying to look around for what crime could this person have committed. Sometimes they spend the whole day interrogating you, just looking for what to charge you with. And at the end of the day, they will say, you're bonded, you come back. And that's the end of it. Or sometimes they keep you crisscrossing the roads to go back, they renew your bond, things like that. So we really need to get rid of such clauses within our legal frameworks that don't merit in a modern democratic society. We need to start there. Otherwise, you be so locked up that you can't literally do anything. You stand up to say something, then you fear, oh, I'm going to offend so and so. Let them be offended at some point. If you're in a public office, and you feel when people comment about you, they are annoying you, then you don't merit to be in that very office. Me, if I were a voter, I would never vote for such a person who gets annoyed because they are criticized. Criticism that is constructive should be welcome. I am a leader at our place of work. People come to me and say, hey, Mr. Sempala, this. I even say, thank you so much for coming to share with me on that. I don't, take it personal. That's how all leaders should be.
So we should appreciate the criticism. So I want to ask you, so who do journalists work for? Do we work for the people, or do we work for the state?
We work for the people. Because we are the eyes and ears of the public.
But it has been said that there are some journalists or some media houses that work for the state and have to do stories or report stories in a way that is favorable to the state.
Yeah,
so
sometimes.
Is that true?
Sometimes they say who pays the piper calls the tune. But it's very wrong with the media. As long as you occupy a public office as a journalist, you are a public vehicle for everything. You do not have to be subjected to only working for an individual. Even if you work for a public broadcaster, then the national outlook must take precedence. Your loyalty should be to your audiences.
Yes.
What it is that is affecting them, what it is that is going to improve their livelihoods, what is it that you need to really call us out for them. That's why we are called the eyes and ears of the public, to see where they cannot see, and you become the light for them, to hear on their behalf and protect your authorities. So if you're going to appease the executive, for instance, the CEO of this country, how much are you going to do to appease them?
Yes.
But you stick to the ethics.
Yes.
Stick to the values and the core principles of journalism. You never go wrong. Even if your boss became a bit annoyed with you and you lost your work, some other person will take you on and you become more shining where you have gone, because you stand for those very core values and principles and ethics for which media must be bestowed on. And to say the least, if any journalist wants to appease the executive, they will never compete. There are so many other forces you're going to conflict with in appeasing a person.
That's true.
So just stick to your work and you'll never go wrong. Even if you're taken to court, Sarah, and you've done the right thing, still you'll be acquitted.
Yes.
So I don't even, I think it's okay to stand in the dock if you're a journalist, worth it. Every journalist that has really been constructively profoundly entrenched in this profession has been taken to court at one point or another, but they have won. So don't even be scared.
You said something that has tickled my mind. You say journalists are the eyes and the ears of the people.
Yes.
Well, with that kind of power comes great responsibility. Journalists some have been accused for pushing propaganda for the opposition. Others have been accused for pushing propaganda in regard to the state, and putting stories forth that are just biased. So how does a journalist come forth to be credible? And give information that is not going to rile people up, that is not going to incite violence, that is not going to push a biased agenda, whether it is for opposition or whoever else.
You may never come across such a journalist in this world.
How is that so?
Yeah, because if you go to cover the president, for instance, today, the people that are in the opposition will sometimes think you're supporting him. If you go to cover Bobi Wine today, the people in government will think you're part and parcel of Bobi Wine, which is just a perception that must not even bother you, as long as you're doing your work according to what we have just talked about.
Yes.
You must really walk with your head high. Though there are journalists that have turned into activists, they speak, they walk, they act as their sources. You're going for, say, a people power event and you put on red, and you have a barrier at some point in your jacket. Yes. That way, you cease to be objective. You have become very subjective. It's not allowed in terms of a professional journalist. Yes. And there, everybody will fault you. If, for instance, you're caught on the wrong side of the law, and we came to your rescue, we'll take you into a corner and tell you, what the hell were you doing here? Exactly. Were you a journalist or were you an activist? So if you're beaten as they are dispersing a crowd of, say, people who have been ruled out as an illegal presence somewhere, do not even run as a journalist. Say, journalists have been beaten. That way, you have chosen to lay your bed. To lay your bed, you make your bed, you must lay in it a little bit. Yes. But we do not even condone the beating of people to start with. Because it's only a bit selfish to say journalists are beaten. But why must people be beaten in any case? Why don't you apprehend them and take them to the courts of law? So if you're beating me here now, and then tomorrow you're taking me to the courts of law, what remedies are you looking for? Because you've already administered the punishment to me. Literally, you've judged me already. Yes. So we are opposed to even beating at its lowest. As a media rights body, we also, they're saying rights are indivisible. They are everywhere. If, say, my head is paining, my whole body is sick. So you do not only talk about media rights and you think other people are fine because for them, nobody has talked for them. That's why we are ears and eyes of the public, not only of the journalists. As a journalist, you must have a nose to fish around for what is affecting the people, bring it to the core. But we really want those journalists that have become activists. Please, you're spoiling the industry. This profession is not for activists. If you choose to, to become a politician, jump the ship. Yes. Like one time we invited one of my friends, Honorable Ibrahim Semujonganda, because he was a journalist. We used to host him,
Yes.
we used to move with him. He was such an excellent investigative reporter who worked for the Daily Monitor, who worked for Observer. We invited him one time at a function, and we said how we have a journalist, and said, you people don't refer to me as a journalist anymore. Me, I crossed over. I'm a politician. I want to remove President Museveni. Journalists must not be working to remove a president. They must be there to report what is happening, to criticize, you know, constructively. So for me, refer to me as a politician. And that's what most journalists should do now. If you feel your calling is now into politics, cross over. You can't be both.
Okay.
Now you're a reporter with a camera, then 2 minutes later, you are an activist for some politician, you're a personal assistant, you are an information officer, and then you go to the newsroom and read a story in which you have vested interest. That's not proper for in the industry. Exactly. Be able to, you know, weigh your options, prioritize. Say, if I want to become an NUP or NRM functionary, I am crossing over. And let us bless you and say, you become our chain now. There where you are, within the political circles, please discuss issues of journalists and media, press freedom. And that way we'll support you as one of us, but now a politician.
All right. I love what you've said. It's important to be very objective in this profession of ours, journalism. You cannot be cannot be both, because then it now starts to blindside you and makes you very biased.
Sarah, in the face of injustice, journalists must not be objective. Somebody is raping a woman, and because you're a journalist, you want to capture the event, so you station your camera. I will charge you if I were a prosecutor for abetting and aiding a crime of rape. Because what else are you doing? Just capturing, go and rescue this person. Yeah, I've seen it during riots. When a journalist is carrying a baby and rushing them to an ambulance, you know, to save their lives, that is more humanitarian. That's the human face of everyone, including a journalist. Don't just watch on because I'm supposed to be objective and, you know, I must not interfere with the story. I must not be part of the story, you know. It's part of what we were taught. But rescue somebody and then talk about the rest later. I saw a lady who works with a local TV during those riots. When she went to the rescue of a person who had been shot at, sat on a border with this boy, then rushed to hospital. Unfortunately, the baby, the boy passed away. But that for me is an award-winning intervention that a journalist rest your camera somewhere and then become a lifesaver. It doesn't cost you. Your media house will not accuse you for having faulted, you know, the guidelines. But being an activist and a politician and a journalist, sometimes it's a very daunting job for anyone to afford. Exactly.
So as we wrap up, next week on Thursday, that will be 3rd May 2022, will be World Press Freedom Day. Tuesday, I beg your pardon.
Tuesday.
Yes, on Tuesday, that will be 3rd May.
Which is likely to be a public holiday for our Muslim brethren.
Yes.
So for us here, we are going to celebrate. We will have activities on that day, but on a very small scale. But the main celebration under the umbrella of the Uganda Media Sector Working Group will be on the 5th, which is a Thursday, because we cannot celebrate while our colleagues are already feasting on us. We want to go and share part of their food. So we'll be in Mestil Hotel in Zambia. We'll have a dialogue, a very good one at that, and discuss so many issues regarding press freedom and World Press Freedom Day. We want to use that day not to, you know, trade accusations, who is not done what, but to really bring to life situations that will give life to the media in the future. You know, make reflections on what has happened and how to counter it going forward. Not to make just beautiful, excellent speeches. Always discourage people who go on to their laptop, sit and, you know, compile a beautiful speech for us on that day. They disappear and don't resurface when it is 3rd May and still make it the same. But in between, there is no action whatsoever. For me, I want somebody who comes to account to us what has happened that time. What have you done?
What are you doing actively?
What are you doing about it? Not only lamentation to come and say the media is our friend, and yet you some time back you are saying we will beat you to help you. You are the IGP. You say we will continue beating you as long as we are saving you. How do you even save me by beating me? You know, that time of coffee growing when they used to call coffee chiboko. Like to help you to grow your coffee. We are not slaves anymore. If you want to help me, just be civil. Don't beat me. So that day is very important, all of us. And that's when every media house, every journalist should dedicate a little bit of time to talk about press freedom in the world.
Yes.
Our rankings internationally are so bad, 125 out of 80.
And Burundi is doing better than us.
It is even laughable that Burundi is better than us. Burundi used to be one of the worst. South Sudan used to be one of the worst, you know, but now look at how deep we have sunk.
But are we, even though our ratings are bad, but isn't there any silver lining?
There is a lot. Actually, to say the least, I would be very unfair to say there is nothing good about our industry.
Yes.
One, the multiplicity of media outlets is an opportunity because we have many TV stations, print media, online, and everything. Those are very good ventures, and we commend this government for having opened up the space in 1993.
Yes.
And we shifted away from UTV, where people would even go for a break, sleep, and you're supposed to sleep even when you're watching. There's nothing on TV.
Yes.
Now the competition does not allow you to do that.
Yes.
You have many choices to make, but that freedom must not be taken away, taken back, because you think the media is now too much on you, or cameras are, you know, looking around for you to account for this and that and that, and then you think, okay, it was maybe a grand mistake for me to liberalize the industry. We just have to contend with the new developments, the dynamics around an evolving society. That what do you do around many cameras? How do you conduct yourself? Now, there was an incident last time when the Prime Minister, you know, got lost for words, Honorable Nabanja.
Yes.
Then she's leading a and then this journalist put it out there to see that this is what happens during interviews. And this guy was to be fired. We commend the media center for the media council for having come out to say, what is wrong with that? If you are in front of a camera, you should be attentive 100%. If you say anything recklessly, you just know it's going to the public. And that's how the media should be. If you're caught on the wrong side of the law, don't blame the camera person.
Yes.
Blame yourself for having, you know, uttered words, you know. I'm not supposed to edit to say, she said this and that, so it is bad. No, 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 no. Unless it jeopardizes national security, maybe it incites violence, maybe it evades the privacy of a person, things like that. Yes. But if anything, personal lifestyle, please do not blame the journalist, the messenger.
All right, thank you so much. You gifted me with last year's annual report for the Press Freedom Index report of Uganda 2020. I am looking forward to reading this. And I'm also looking forward for this year's report, because you did host the event yesterday. The event yesterday,
it was a very colorful event.
I followed on Twitter.
Yes, and I was very impressed seeing how you followed and, you know, sharing with the public, with the statistics and everything. That is very informative of you and the show. I'm very impressed. So I sat in here and saw these two ladies, you know, articulating issues right at the national, regional, and international level, and I'm out by how you did this. So thank you. I am also here to say that the public should not, you know, disassociate themselves from the works of the media.
Yes.
Because we inhale tear gas, we take batons, we go into the coolers for you, to fish for stories for you. So if anything affects us, please speak out as politicians, as members of the communities, as religious leaders, as cultural leaders. You need the media. So speak out for them when it critically matters. All right.
So before I let you go, please let the viewer know how they can find you.
Okay, the viewers, I mean the journalists, because there's a time I gave out a number, and people were calling me counsel, lawyer in the night to say, my wife here is misbehaving. You said we called you.
Yes.
So this one is only for us.
Journalists, yes.
Journalists. One, our physical location is Kalonda Zone in Bukoto, behind Kabila Country Club. Everybody is welcome in there. Then for a hotline, somebody is already with it, you can call. It is 0702 90 55 66. Yes. 90 55 66 is on 24/7. But you also can call us on a toll-free line if you have no airtime. 0800 144 155. And you'll be talking to us work hours.
Yes.
If
Work
you can,
hours, that is between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.?
5 p.m.
Yes.
Not weekends, because weekends that very number is in our offices.
Yes.
But you can also go on all our social media platforms and just into the search engine, just put in Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda.
Yes.
You'll be able to find all the details of how to get to us.
All
You're
right.
always welcome. Every journalist is welcome to us, whether you have a problem or not. Some people only prefer to come to
When there are problems.
when there are
no.
problems. Let us have a conversation.
Yes.
Let us brainstorm around how to make our industry better. Share an opportunity with us. You know, come when build bridges.
That's true.
Don't just invite me for your wedding and I do not know you and you're saying, Sempala, you come. Where have you been all this time?
Yes.
And not making a contact?
Yes.
That's very important for us to know each other, because this is where we belong. We must also build our family as the media industry.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we be there for us, one another's keeper.
True. Each other's brother's keeper, yes.
Yes. I should be knowing who is here. That here is Chris Semakula, here is Noel Nabaka, here is
Yes.
so and so. They all work for CTV. So that when issues of need arise, I know who I'm dealing with, who
And
I'm
you know
talking
who
to.
to
It's
call,
extremely
and
important
you know who will respond
to know who is the
immediately.
editor, who is the manager, who is the proprietor of
Yes.
this industry. And I was very impressed last time when I met your boss at the Whispers and
Yes.
we had a chat and said, oh, you have a magnificent place like
Yes.
here. So that's what we should do. So you're
All
always
right.
welcome to us. And Sarah, we hope to see you very soon at
Very
our
soon,
offices.
very soon. I even stay in Bukoto, so I will be
Ah,
walking
you
in
see.
very soon.
That's working in
All right,
time.
thank you so much, Mr. Robert Sempala, for joining me today on the Twitter Jabs. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And like he said, you can reach out to them across all social media platforms, and that is Human Rights Network, Network for Journalists in Uganda. Thank you so much for watching, and keep watching Sunrise at Sea, because we have more lined up for you. Don't blink.